For many years I've been looking for lenses that produce great bokeh. After trying out various brands and lens mounts, I decided to focus on M42 screw mount lenses. The best M42 lenses, despite being over 40 years old, can produce amazing results, often better than much more expensive modern primes. They're great value for money and a lot of fun to use manually, and they can easily be adapted to most digital cameras. I posted 4 separate videos about the best lenses divided into 4 lens groups. Wider than 50mm, 50mm, the classic fast 50s, 55 to 58mm, and over 58mm. I haven't tried every single old lens that was made in each group, but I've selected most of the highest rated lenses, with 1 or 2 exceptions that I'll mention as I go along. In this video I'm going to recommend the best under 50mm lens. I've included photos to back up my recommendations and provided a link below to my Flickr stream where the photos taken by M42 and other lenses have had over 7 million views. At this stage I would normally point out what we're looking for in a great bokeh lens. Things like smooth blur, a 3D look, good transitions, as well as more subjective features like painterly bokeh, swirls, bubbles, and so on. Some of these characteristics can also apply to sub 50mm lenses, but not all the time. For wider angle lenses, say 15mm and wider, bokeh may not be so important. Indeed, busy, largely in-focus backgrounds can tell a more interesting story. And then when you get to around 35mm, you're really talking about a surrogate fast 50 style of bokeh. Indeed, on crop sensors, 35mm is the rough equivalent of a 50mm lens. And in these cases, if you're looking for great blur and 3D effects, why not use a real fast 50 instead? I've been trawling through my sub 50mm M42 albums, and they're simply not very interesting in terms of bokeh. The fast digital lenses, such as the Sigma 30 f1.4, and macro lenses like the DA35 macro, are much more interesting. There are some M42 images with very eccentric bokeh, but with a few notable exceptions. That's typically the result of an unusual composition or weird light, rather than a particular lens's intrinsic qualities. That's not to say that the lenses are not good as non-bokeh walk-around or landscape lenses. On the contrary, some M42 lenses are excellent landscape lenses. It's just that bokeh doesn't play much of a part of the image. However, there are a few good M42 bokeh lenses under 50mm, especially the close focus lenses, and there's one exceptional lens. One close focus lens that deserves a special mention is the Carl Zeiss Jena Flektogen 35 f2.4. The Flektogen is a fine lens with a very loyal fan base. It can produce excellent bokeh. You can see plenty of examples of it on the internet. I'm not going to go into detail about this and other wide-angle lenses, because from my experience there is a clear and outstanding winner in this group, and that's the extraordinary Auto Takuma 35 f2.3. By modern standards, it's still quite a fast 35mm lens. And just look at the size of that front element. It's huge, even compared to some of the fastest 50s. This is an f1.2 lens, for instance. All this glass sucks in a lot of light, and you'd hope it could produce dreamy and amazing bokeh wide open. And it really does deliver. It can do super smooth bokeh. It can do good isolation and transitions. This image has had a colour and contrast boost. It can do painterly bokeh. It can certainly do loads of bubbles. It can even do wild and swirly bokeh if you reverse the front element. And that's a surprisingly easy thing to do with this lens. It's instructive to look at video clips of the lens in action, straight out of the camera. The second video in particular demonstrates a weakness of the lens and how it struggles to handle very bright light, because it only has limited coatings. Images can have flares and ghosting, and sometimes need quite a lot of processing. But that's true of many old M42 lenses, and flares and ghosting and other effects are all part of the charm of the bokeh produced by these lenses. The big plus of the Auto Takuma 35 2.3 is it can produce unique and fascinating bokeh wide open, and it holds an unrivaled position as the best M42 bokeh lens under 50mm. And not just M42 lenses, it's one of the most intriguing lenses you can buy, digital or otherwise. Hope you've enjoyed this video and has given you some insights into these great lenses. It would be really good to read any comments or suggestions you have below. I'm posting 3 other videos on the best bokeh lenses, so please subscribe if you're interested.